We are Muskegon County at Work, spotlighting workers of local governments throughout our county, revealing what it takes to make our communities comfortable and safe. Hello, everybody. Your host, DJ Hilson here, and yet again, another episode of Muskegon County Municipalities at Work, where we get to dive into, even into the weeds a little bit about how local government functions, and not only that, but the various areas of local government that are functioning every day that we might not even know exist. And today, my guest is Susan Newhof. Hello, Susan.
Hello. It's such a pleasure to be here.
Well, it's great to have you here. I'm
Thank you.
super excited about our conversation today. And as I always like to do, I always like to have my guests talk a little bit about themselves, what they do, how they got to where they're at, and then we'll go from there. How's that sound?
That's wonderful. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I live in Montague, moved there about 28 years ago. My husband and I were moving back from Washington, D.C., and we were looking for a place to live. We drove into this town we really didn't know anything about, went down Old Channel Trail, and I apparently yelled, "Stop the car," in front of an old white house with a for sale sign. And we toured it. We loved it. 3 months later, it was ours, and that began this really lovely life in Montague. And then about 20 years later, there was a position open on Montague City Council by virtue of one of the council members having moved out of the region. So the position was left vacant. There was no election coming up quickly. And so in that case, people can apply to be on council, and then the council votes who they want on with them. And I was getting some pressure from friends who said something like, "You've enjoyed it here now for 20 years. Isn't it time for you to give back?" Which made a lot of sense. I also had really been involved in so many things in the city. I had a booth at the farmers market. I helped write the grant that opened the art center there, the Newhof Community Center for the Arts. So I'd been involved, and this seemed like a wonderful next step. So I applied. I was voted in. And then 3.5 years later, I had to, my term was up, and I had to come up for re-election, and which meant I had to campaign. And I am by nature a bit shy, and going door to door was so painful, but I did it every night for a month, and I was re-elected. And I was really proud, really honored to represent the people of the city.
That's awesome, because it sort of mirrors a little bit my story, except we didn't stop at a house and I said, "Stop the car."
Yeah.
But not originally born and raised here, I guess is my point, in the Muskegon County area, and appreciating, certainly going back in that time frame, appreciating sort of the jewel that Muskegon County is.
It's phenomenal.
And so I guess my first questions to you are just that. Obviously, you're coming from another state, you're moving into a smaller community, and outside of the location, what was it about Montague? Maybe not necessarily then, but what you have grown to know now that has really, I guess, made you stay.
Because the original attraction was certainly being somewhere near the lakeshore. And Paul and I both had families in Grand Rapids, so we loved being just an hour away from them. I can't imagine leaving. Montague was instantly welcoming to us, wonderful neighbors. I'd never lived where I was in 3 blocks of downtown. That's really fun. Our downtown's tiny, but it has neat things. And the more it's grown, the more we get. We have a brewery, we have restaurants, we have a clothing store, now we have the farmers market and an artisan market. So there's lots there to do. So there's that small town hug, if you will, that we feel, and yet we're close to so much here in Muskegon County. All of the resources here, cultural, entertainment, that's been a big part of it. We're close to airports. We can fly anywhere in the world and come back to this beautiful, quiet, peaceful, safe town. I'll tell you, we didn't even have locks on our doors. When we started renovating, we bought those doors that have the hole drilled for a deadbolt, And so we installed the doors, and there was that hole, and we shoved it full of insulation. And it wasn't until that insulation was getting worn out and kept falling out that we decided we should probably put a lock on it. Coming out of Washington, D.C., and I loved living near the district. I was in Alexandria. But I had triple locks on my door. So did everybody else. And so coming into a town that has all along felt so safe and just so easy. It's so easy to live there and to have access to the things we love.
That's phenomenal. You should probably talk to the tourism people and maybe start, writing some of these testimonials down. All right, so you come from what I'll say is sort of the political capital of the world, Washington, D.C.
And I was only there for 5 years, but boy, you get inundated quickly.
I can only imagine.
Yeah.
I can only imagine. Come to this small little town here in Muskegon County. What was it? What was the calling or the draw that made you decide, I'm not a person that is, I'm just guessing here, so you can correct me if I'm wrong. But I'm not a person who's looking to get politically active, but there's this opportunity. What was it that kind of said, you know what, I'm going to do this?
The first was giving back, the opportunity to go for a position that typically the city was really often looking for people to run. So the opportunity to do that. The opportunity to see the city that I love from the inside out. And the opportunity to help the process of a city growing and changing. Because while everybody says, I don't like change, nobody likes change for the most part. But we all know that cities will change. And so the goal is to figure out what residents in the city want their city to be, and then for city leadership to help make that possible. And we do that by coming up with policies and guidance and ordinances and budget and resources, town halls like we had this week, all those ways that we figure out the direction the city residents want the city to go, and then making that happen so that we're driving it instead of pulling it or pushing it or correcting it. I wanted to be part of that. I really wanted to be part of that because I love Montague so much. And I wanted to make sure that the things that I, coming in as an outsider, appreciated, could be preserved or restored or enhanced or built on. I wanted to be part of that.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Because there is a commitment, obviously, when you make that choice, right? There is a commitment. So talk to us a little bit about the makeup of the city council itself. How many members? What are sort of the daily? I would say daily, but what are the core functions? You've described a little bit, but what are some of the core functions that the council is responsible for?
Council has 6 regular members, and then the mayor also sits with us, so there are 7 of us, and we have staggered terms. Core functions. We decide the big stuff. We look at budgets. We look at sometimes major staffing issues, policies, ordinances, procedures, all of those kinds of things when they need revising and approving, zoning. So if you think about all the big decisions that a community needs to make about how it's going to be run, both from a day-to-day standpoint, though we have a city manager who handles that so beautifully, but also, and I would say primarily, from my perspective, that long-term look. What are we doing to assure that this city we envision gets going in the path that we want it to keep progressing on? So, big things. Parks have been a really big focus for us. Our goal is to have a park within a 5-minute walk of every resident in the city. I love that. We learned during COVID that outdoor time has become really important to families, both families with little children who they want to get outside But also, we have a large aging population in Montague. And I want to tell you, seniors are not like the seniors of my youth, my grandparents. Seniors these days are active, they're healthy, they're strong, they're playing pickleball. They want to do things, they walk, they run races. So here are these parks that are accessible to them. They also, many of them, are taking care of grandchildren, either on a permanent basis or they babysit them, or the children of friends. And so here are parks where they can take these children to play. So an issue like parks has become very important to us, and we just passed this last year a major parks plan, a long-range plan. And so then our job as council people in putting that together is to figure out what our community needs. And part of the way we figure that out is we go out and talk to people. That's a really big thing. We hold town halls. And then we put those pieces in place and we make sure we have budget and resources for it.
How important is it to help, push along some of these accomplishments that the council work together? And certainly we're all human beings, right? We all have different philosophies. We all have different ideals. But at the end of the day, to get work done, you have to work together.
Together.
And what has your experience been? And again, I'm not picking on Montague because it's a small community, but you've got that city council compared to the city of Detroit. Two very divergent, different things.
Absolutely.
So
yeah.
how? But the level of cooperation has got to be the same. But what has your experience been?
It does have to be cooperation. What I love about this council that we have right now is we are not carbon copies of each other. When I campaigned for my second term, I said to people, you don't need 7 of me, but you do need 1 of me. And that worked. And so we don't always agree, and I think that's good. We do talk things out. We do come from pretty varied backgrounds. So we all bring experiences. We all bring conversations with our neighbors. And all of that then comes together in an incredibly respectful way. And I give credit to the individual members who all want one thing. And that is, we all want a city that's healthy, that's got a good budget, that has happy residents, that's safe, all that list of things. We all want that. Some of us think we should go that way to get it, and some of us think we should go that way to get it. The goal is the same. I also give credit to our city manager, Jeff Auk, who runs such a good city program, a good balanced budget, staff that are happy and productive, capable, and our mayor who always runs a meeting that is respectful of everyone who wants to speak in turn. He gives time, but keeps it on track. And so when all of that comes together, it sounds pretty ideal. And in some ways, it is, I guess. It's really, I'm very proud of it. I will tell you, I'm very proud of the council and of what the council then is able to do for residents and for the city planning.
You mentioned a couple of times, the interaction with the community, the public, the people that vote for you, and how important are those interactions? Certainly you're going to have people show up to meetings. That's a given. But again, Montague's a small community, and so when you're out and about, you got to run into people all the time. And how have you found those interactions to either be a challenge or helpful in this role?
They're both a challenge and helpful. I love them all, and I have been taken to task on things. I try to mirror what I see as wonderful leadership in both our city manager, Jeff, and our mayor, Tom Lohman. I watch them, and I watch their respect for the people that they're talking with. And I've learned that while I might think I'm always right, I'm not, I'm sure. And so it is incumbent on me to be quiet and listen. And that's the biggest thing I can do. Listen, ask questions, ask more questions, and get their information, and then put that in with the mix of everything else that I hear.
You know, a lot of people, and I'm sure you've encountered these types of people in your life. You know, will express opinions, have ideas, but may not be willing or wanting to take that next step to do what you did. You know, run for office or fill a vacancy. Can you just talk a little bit about, you know, how important it is to maybe get outside your comfort zone, outside your box, and if you really feel passionate and strongly about either that or a host of issues, how important being in a role like you're in is important.
So I want to say exactly what you just said. That's exactly what it is. It is so important for people to get involved. It's so important for people to feel and to understand they have a voice. This is their community. So jump in. And there are lots of ways that they can jump in. It doesn't have to be on city council, but it can be to volunteer to be on a committee, to volunteer to be on another board, to come to the meetings, to take us aside, to call me, to email me, to stop in and see Jeff. Our city manager has an open door policy, so stop in and talk to him. And understand, particularly in a town of 2,500, one voice carries a lot. It's important. It's important that we know. For example, I'm really proud of the fact that I helped stop the killing of swans on our portion of White Lake. That was really important to me. I don't know that I could have done that if I hadn't been on city council and learned some of the ways to make what I know more public and to go after a point of view. I learned how to do that. I learned how to be more effective. So stepping up to a volunteer position doesn't mean you're out there without a parachute. Quite the contrary. There's all kinds of training, online training, and there's the Municipal League that does training for people in leadership in communities. Lots of ways people can learn to use that marvelous mind they have and to speak it and to have an impact and to help bring other people along at the same time.
How important do you think that is for our young people? I mean, obviously, Montague has a school system.
Yeah. Good system.
A good system, yeah. I've been there a few times. You know, they're obviously kids as part of that population of 2,500. What message can we send to them about the importance, not necessarily about civic service, but how important their voice is no matter what their age is?
Well, it is critical that we do that. We know that volunteerism, for example, is down. We know that kids today are a lot busier than when I was a child. You know, they're booked with all kinds of sporting things and lots of after-school activities. So that time that many of us had after school that wasn't taken up with studying, where we could volunteer for things, and we learned then to do that as kids and grew up to be volunteers as adults, they're not getting that. And that's a concern of mine. So I think the question is, how do we do that? I hope through programs at the schools. We now have on City Council a student representative. I love that. And she comes to every meeting and she gives us a report of what they're doing at the school. So she's our link to the school. We're our link to her. She takes our information back as well. That's one way. But it's really important. And you don't have to have a ton of time to serve. You just need to have a little bit of time. to be willing to give. Put your toe in the water and try it and see really how good it feels to watch yourself be able to have an impact in the community that you live in and love.
It's fantastic. I love the student liaison. I think more cities should do that.
It's important, isn't it?
It really is,
Yeah.
On a lot of different levels. So tell us a little bit. I mean, I'm curious. Give us some things about Montague that even Muskegon County residents might not know about Montague that make it unique.
We have a new dog park.
Huh?
Well, I talked about our parks
Yeah.
being a priority, and so we have an area off Cook Street that has had 2 ball fields, which are wonderful, get used by the Little League and other groups. And there's a bike trail that runs right there, and there's a lot of acreage that we have adjacent, and a big parking lot. So we looked at what is it, again, that community residents have said they'd love. And a couple of things came up. They'd love pickleball courts. So those are in the making. And they love a dog park. And so be it. So it's not quite finished. It's fenced. It's usable. We're putting the final touches on it. It's been very popular. That makes us unique. So if you want to come up to Montague and take a look, bring your dog and try out our dog park off Cook Street. What else? Our abundant parks, our boat accessibility. We've got boat docks with a big parking lot there. The fact that we have both a river, a little lake, and a big lake. We've got the White River, White Lake, and then, of course, Lake Michigan. So a lot of water and all of the resources that go along with it. We have a really fun little downtown. We have 2 breweries, which is terrific. We've got a new social district, which connects those 2 breweries with a big alley where people can come and sit and bring a picked lunch. They can get beverages from the local bars and restaurants and bring them out. In warmer weather, those are really popular. We have a fabulous Book Nook and Java shop where we have live music just about 7 days a week. This summer, the Friends of the Montague Library that I'm a member of will bring in really notable authors, award-winning authors. We do that for, I think we're having 4 or 5 authors in consecutive weeks, all free, held at the Book Nook. So exposure to things like that. We've got a great 4th of July parade between Montague and Whitehall. We combine forces on a lot of things, so we're mightier than just a town of 2,500 because we've got an almost equally sized city right across the water. So we combine forces for things like that. A great Santa Claus parade. We've got the Arts Council in Whitehall that has summer concerts at our band shell all summer long. Gosh, we've got Cruisin'. Do they know about Cruisin', where we bring in the old cars? There's a lot. Pumpkin.
I was going to say, you can't forget the pumpkin
roll. And Pumpkin Fest. Yeah, fabulous day-long activities built around pumpkins and pies and spitting. I was, by the way, the reigning seed spitting queen.
Wow.
One year. Yeah, that my first year there. I had a tailwind. So I spit a seed 28 and a half feet. It's pretty mighty, don't you think?
That's pretty mighty.
We have a lot of fun things to do there. We close off our little downtown street periodically through the summer for festivals. One of the things I really love about Montague is that it is physically accessible. Parking is close by. It's walkable. It's wheelchair and stroller and cane and walker accessible. It's warm. It's friendly. Probably the rest of Muskegon County knows that. I'd hope they would. But we have these little pocket things that go on all year. And if they get a hold of the White Lake Area Chamber of Commerce, they can find out all the things that are going on.
Well, and I'm going to give city government a pat on the back, because a lot of those things are as a result of visionaries, like you said, making things happen in a very collective and collaborative way.
And I will say some of them have been going on for decades. We've got a wonderful old Santa Claus parade. and 4th of July parade. And a lot of these things were going on long before I got there, and our job then is to make sure that the best parts of them keep going.
Well, I think you provide an example of, again, how city government can work, not as a rubber stamp, but as individuals with a collective common goal. And I think you also highlight the fact that it's important that there's good leadership. Mm-hmm. When you have those factors and that combination of factors, good things happen.
Good things happen. You talked about some of the things people might not know and good things happening. For example, we've been able to reduce property taxes 4 out of the last 5 years. That's rare for a community. I'm very proud of that. Governor Whitmer put into place in 2021 a mandate that all communities, all municipalities in Michigan, replace lead service lines for water or copper lines with lead fixings, anything having to do with lead, get them out in 20 years. We started on that. We're 3 years ahead now. And going at the speed that we are now, all of that will be remediated within 8 years, well ahead of the goal. I'm really proud of that. Safety is one of our big priorities. We have a fine police force. And so you're right. It's leadership. I'm fortunate to be part of that, but I work with really good people, and I'm so proud. I have to say, I am unabashedly proud of Montague. I love it. It's been fun. It's been a challenge sometimes. I've been happy to be part of helping work through the challenges.
Let's, one of the last questions I want to ask you is that question. What challenges do you see coming up for the city council that's going to require maybe, some deep thinking or outside the box thinking, if there's any?
We have a very interesting thing going on right now. The city owns 5 lots right in the heart of our downtown, in the corner of Ferry and Dowling. And the question has been, what do we do with those? And so, for example, we held a town hall this week and had great participation. And what we're learning, both going out into the community, and one of the residents who did an informal survey of about 75 people, is the desire for green space. Don't give us more buildings, or give part of it to green space so we can still see the lake when we come down the hill. And then perhaps 2 lots green space and 3 lots develop. So that might not seem like a big issue, but as I remind people, whatever we decide and do, we're going to have to live with for the next 100 years. The community will live with it for the next 100 years. So let's take our time. Let's listen to what people want. Let's look at whether we can do that, and let's look at how we do that. And that is the planning and the processing and the cooperation that makes a city good.
That's spectacular. That's spectacular. I have to say, I've always loved the White Lake area.
Pretty, isn't it?
It's just absolutely gorgeous. I'm trying to convince my parents, who are been retired for a while, that if they wanted to move to Michigan, that might be a spot to look. Not that I have any ulterior motives at all, but yeah, and again, I think this conversation has really, highlighted for me certainly, but I hope highlighted for others, how important even the smallest of city governments play in a community, and the role and the fact that it's not just a group of people getting together, every month to do whatever, that there's actually a lot of work involved. And when folks have the same passion, same heart, same drive and desire, good things happen, as I said before.
They do.
So thank you, Susan, for your service. Thank you for answering the call, which I think is fantastic.
Thank you. I was honored to, really. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. You're welcome. And certainly for everybody else, get up to Montague.
Come visit.
Yeah. If for anything, see the world's largest weather vane.
That's right. Gosh, I forget about that. Yes, the world's largest weather vane.
Come and see the weather vane. Well, thank you for being with me today. Thank you for enduring my questions.
My pleasure. Thank you, really.
And again, thank you for your service.
Thank you so much. And for yours. Thank you for doing this good show.
Yeah, you're welcome. It's my pleasure.
Great podcast.
Ladies and gentlemen, that's it for today's episode. I hope that you learned a little bit more about Muskegon Municipalities at Work and the individuals who are involved in the successes that are going on throughout our communities here in Muskegon County. Until the next time, again, your host here, DJ Hilson, and this program does not happen without the ingenuity of one Mike Vogus.